From London, this is the Standard Podcast, and I'm Mark Blunden. Coming up in this episode, it's the best of London's free art shows to enjoy as the summer sun, hopefully, re-emerges over the capital. But first, a report suggests the United Kingdom faces a shortage of skilled workers for in-demand roles, including technology, manufacturing and banking. According to recruitment firm Hays, the UK is among the top 5 countries being hit by a talent shortfall, while the United States, China, India, Germany and Brazil all surge ahead. The analysis found the UK has a pressing need to address its skills shortages or risk falling behind our international peers. Technology, engineering, manufacturing, life sciences and financial services are all particularly suffering a deficit, but paradoxically it comes amid growing concerns about the impact of the recent immigration rule changes around the skilled worker visa threshold rise for foreign workers and their families, which increased from £26,200 to £38,700 in April, while just applying can cost thousands of pounds. Evening Standard social editor Deeya Sonalkar is among international professionals finding themselves caught up in this bureaucratic labyrinth along with her British partner. Deeya describes the anxious and costly experience of navigating the convoluted Home Office visa system after moving from India to study and work in London.
When I decided that I was going to go the partner visa route, there was a system in place. There was requirements in place that I kind of made a checklist and had it all planned out. But because of the changes that were put in place not too long ago, I think a few months ago, kind of had to revisit the entire plan, the entire payment schedule, how the salary thresholds are working, not to mention that the cost itself for the visa keeps increasing. And when I had initially planned to apply for it, it was maybe like about £1,000 to £1,500 less than what it has become now. So it does kind of play on your mind constantly. And I'll always be on like the news side of things, trying to see like, okay, now what are they going to do? It's like basically living in a suspended form of anxiety. So I think it's very important to kind of keep a check on the news cycle when it comes to like the UK Home Office system, because it's constantly changing.
How has it impacted your future planning?
I think it's quite impactful in terms of there's so many things that in your 20s, especially, like you have to think about for your future. Like, for example, for my partner and I, we wanted to put down a deposit for a house. And we had like a tentative 5-year plan that we were working towards having that kind of money and then, be able to put it towards a home. But since this whole change has come into effect now, we have to kind of think of having more savings for other things like visas and, lawyers to like help with the visa. And it kind of has been putting us into this weird place where, okay, we have to revisit our plans maybe like every 3-4 months to see if it's still valid and still works out for us in the long run.
What's your view on the intersection between these key UK sector shortfalls detailed in the Hays report and the visa threshold changes?
Personally, my partner works in renewable energy, and he works for a company that is basically a US corporation, and they are bringing in a lot of projects for the UK sectors of like renewable, oil and gas, different energy, but like they are trying to focus more on renewable because that's where there's a huge shortfall in terms of investments. And I think that when they put in rules like that, where you have to have like high salary to be able to employ people on a visa, or having people come in and like not let them have their partner if they're not making a certain amount, I think that really deters people away from jobs like that, even though they are very important jobs and they need to be like prioritized in terms of not just the economy, but also like in terms of like the environment and public service, things like that. I think it's very important to look into why there's a skill issue problem as well. But also like when you have people that are willing to come in, you have to kind of cater to their needs as well. So you have to draw a balance between giving companies that leeway to make that decision, to decide who is the best worker for this job.
So what are the wider economic implications? We asked Evening Standard business editor Jonathan Prynn.
These are sectors that are absolutely key for the UK and any prospects of growing the economy more quickly. They're all areas actually that we are very strong in, maybe not manufacturing so much, but certainly technology, finance, banking, life sciences, all those sorts of things. There are areas that Britain definitely punches above its weight and should be the industries that drive the economy forward in the UK in the years to come, delivering growth and all the benefits that come with that. We've had problems attracting skilled workers for all sorts of reasons over the last few years. Brexit was obviously a big issue, not just because it made it harder for people to come over here to work, but also because it made Britain a less desirable place for them because they felt less welcome. A lot of Europeans left the country at that stage, and that left the city and other parts of the London economy very, very short for key workers. Also, at the lower end of the income scale, which this report you're referring to today doesn't address in quite the same way, but hospitality, care sector, health sector, all those areas where we were extremely reliant on European migrants coming in from the EU, who now can't because they don't meet the entry requirements in terms of skills and salary and so on. And that has still left huge holes. You'll see it in hospitality in London. They're still struggling to find the people that they need to keep restaurants open 5 days a week. And it's a real ongoing problem.
Let's go to the ads. Coming up, it's the cream of the capital's free art shows and what's to come later this year. Why not hit follow on this podcast in the meantime and give us a rating? Welcome back. Now, as the capital basks, hopefully, in some sunshine after the rain, the Evening Standard has got you covered for the top arts and culture events you can see for free in London this week and on into summer's finale. Whether it's painting, sculpture, immersive installations or digital media you're interested in, you can read more about what's going on at galleries across the capital by clicking the link in this show's description. Now, to find out more, we're joined by the Evening Standard's acting culture editor, Nick Clark. What are some of your personal highlights for free arts and culture shows on in London right now?
Trying to pin down amazing art shows in London is pretty tricky. You've got, wherever you go in London, you're going to stumble over one. I mean, you can always find something at one of the major collections. The first thing I would say, actually, is why not head down to Tate Modern? And the reason is there's this extraordinary installation at the moment at the Turbine Hall. Many of the listeners will know the Turbine Hall from the sun that was in there, from the cracks, from the helter-skelter slides. There's pretty iconic artworks go in there. And there's a new one, and that's been put in place by the Turner Prize winner, Oscar Murillo. It's called The Flooded Garden. And what it is these massive canvases that run all the way down the bottom of the Turbine Hall. And he is basically inviting young and old to come and paint, to come and have a laugh, go and put on some overalls, pick up the paintbrushes and slap on a bit of paint onto these canvases. And it's under the heading Tate Play. So it's clearly something that, he's inviting people to come and have fun. And listen, what's better than having one of your works up in Tate Modern?
And how does this week's best of list highlight the diversity of the capital's free to view arts offerings?
You go from Chris Ofili, one of Britain's great artists, and his tribute to the victims of the Grenfell Tower. And that's in Tate. And I defy anyone not to be moved by it every time. You always get brought up short by it. It's an extraordinary piece of work. But then you go from that to there's a Yves Klein exhibition. And I always love the opportunity to go and see Yves Klein. He's this amazing sort of post-war avant-garde artist, works in blue. And again, many of the listeners will know who he is. There are some people that I didn't know too much about and actually really welcome the opportunity to explore. I mean, there's Kiki Kogelnik, who apologies for butchering the name there, but she's this Austrian artist who's associated with the pop art movement. And again, go and see her work. It's at Pace Gallery, really interesting. That, and then Blade Glover, who's this 90-year-old Ghanaian artist. And wow, the October Gallery, I can't wait to get down there. But just a few others that I'd highlight. It's worth going down to the National Portrait Gallery, because last summer they had this massive refurbishment rehang, and it looks in absolutely tip-top shape. So if you haven't been for a while, I would go and check that out again. But it missed out. It was on the shortlist for the Art Fund's Museum of the Year prize, which was awarded 2 months ago. And it lost out to the Young V&A, which I've got to say is an absolutely deserved winner. If you've got kids, head over to Bethnal Green. It is extraordinary. I wish I had a museum like this when I was a kid, but it is for children of all ages. They will have an absolute right. So I'd head over there. And also, if you fancy a bit of outdoor sculpture, Yayoi Kusama is just one of the great artists of our current time. And she's got this massive pumpkin in Kensington Gardens.
And any hints of what we've got to look forward to heading into the autumn?
There's an exhibition coming up at the British Museum about the Silk Roads, which I'm really fascinated about. And I think later on in the year, the National Gallery is doing something around Siena. But also, it's the National Gallery's 200th anniversary year, and there are loads and loads of stuff going on. Again, I would drop in there. There's always something going on, and it's just a great collection.
There's much more news and features at standard.co.uk.